and welcome back to my Shadow and Bone TV show reaction video part 2. That's what we're doing. We're starting with episode 5 today. Yeah, I'm just ready to talk about it. I am very tired. I'm done with episode 5. And I think I need a break. I clearly have not changed out of my pajamas, even though I promised to do so. I'm so tired, but in the best way. I moved over my couch to where I watch. Let's see what my notes are for this. And I also promised that I was gonna move out for this episode. All you see is me on the couch talking. What a boring video this must be. Actually, you know what? Let's move right now, just so things are fun and different. I've never filmed with this background before, and I thought it was appropriate to film with this background because it is. Just pan slowly up. It is part 2 of my Narnia murals that I was so obsessed with when we moved in to this house. It's of Cair Paravel, so the vibe is that like I'm looking out a window and then Cair Paravel is the view. And I thought that was very appropriate for our 5th episode. I'm emotional in the best way possible. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get through these as quick as possible, and then I'm gonna shower. For one thing, I thought it was interesting that they don't really dive into Genia's characterization like they did in the books. We don't really get to go much into Genia being an outcast because, you know, people see her as the mistress of the king and just being used for shallow reasons with the queen. In the book, the Grisha really don't respect her for that, so it was kind of interesting to see that they didn't go with that, and, you know, she was seen as being friendly towards Maria and Nadia. I don't know how that's gonna play into her arc later on. I realized that they never refer to the fold as the Unsea, and they only just refer to it as the fold, so it didn't make sense for me that they refer to the sea as the true sea. I really wish, and I know it would have taken like a really huge effort via CGI or practical effects, but I really wish they'd kept Alina's gloves with the mirrors. It was really weird that they introduced it and then sort of did away with it, and it wasn't even like in the books. And I hate to be that kind of person who's like, it's not how they did it in the books, but I really enjoyed Alina's gloves in the book. I thought they would have made like a really stunning image, and so I'm kind of bummed that it wasn't included. David, I almost forgot that David was gonna make an entrance, and when he did, even though his interactions with Genia probably constituted 30 seconds in total of the episode, I thought they had amazing chemistry. Again, whoever cast this show, no complaints. Speaking of, I thought it was really important because in Six of Crows in the book, we already see Inej as being a reluctant but a willing killer, and we start this off with her refusing to kill people, and I thought it was really meaningful as murder can be, that her first kill was to save Kaz's life. It'll make for an interesting discussion. I got goosebumps the first time people said Sancta Alina. That was a really amazing part. It says here on my notes, Mal is still annoying, but dang if they didn't try. I think that just like the core of where Mal's arc goes, he has to be a little annoying. Like there's no two ways around it. But I will say props to the writers, to the directors, to the casting, because I think Archie himself really helped. Mal has to be a baseline of annoying, and they just scraped the baseline and tried to make him as likable as possible, and I think they succeeded. Also, I have the dumbest note ever, and it says, wow, I'm old enough to kiss Ben Barnes. I will elaborate in just a second. I first, like many women my age, first encountered Ben Barnes in Prince Caspian, and at the time I was a wee little teenager, barely a teenager. I always saw him as this like, whoa, teenage heartthrob, unattainable, like dreamboat. I could never, no chance, he's way too old. And so with all the alarkling scenes in this episode where Jessie May Lee, who is my age, had like all these scenes with Ben Barnes that I was not at all jealous about, she says, with this manic look in her eye. That was my only thought. I was like eating candy while watching, and I was like biting angrily on licorice, like it was a thing, and my only thought was, oh, I didn't know that I was old enough to possibly kiss Ben Barnes. I would probably never get to kiss Ben Barnes, but just the fact that, wow, I'm old enough, because in my mind, I'm still thinking that he's Prince Caspian and I'm still a middle schooler, you know, so that was weird. Not at all jealousy inducing. I have one more gripe, and it's a shallow gripe. Out of all the characters in the Grishaverse, I only share my name with one character who died early in the trilogy. Her name is Marie. That is one of my names. The two other big Grisha fans in my life are my boyfriend and our best friend. And my boyfriend's name is Alexander, and our best friend's middle name is Isaac, who is also an important character in the Grishaverse. And I've always been really annoyed that they get such huge parts in the books and Marie doesn't. And then they killed her a book too early in the show. So I'm like, well, that's just lovely. So Alexander gets to live on in infamy and Marie dies a book too early. Like, why would they kill her this early on? The conductor's fate was like meh, because we never really wanted him around anyway. I like that the apparat's full quote was here about faith, and Bagra's monologue, I believe, is for the most part lifted directly from the books, and I really loved that scene. Kaz and Alina meeting, it was such an understated moment and was not meant to be like this huge big scene, but I guess as a book fan got chills through it. I was like, they're meeting, oh my gosh. I knew that Bagra controlled shadows, but the minute she did it, when she was like, child, look at me, and then shadows, I was like, wow, that's so cool. I did not see that coming at all, even though I did. The chapel looks exactly like it did in my imagination, except for the triptych at the altar, but other than that, exactly how I would have pictured the chapel at Os Alda. What the heck does this say? A reminder of dirty hands. Oh, dirty hands. So this is the first time we get to see vengeful Kaz in this episode. It's a reminder and an assurance of the dirty hands to come, and it kind of gives me hope that we'll see him pull out an eyeball, which is such a gross thing to say and to hope for, but there you go. And the last thing is, you know, I knew about the casting of Zoe Wanamaker and Ben Barnes as Bagra and the Darkling for about 2 years now, and not until they had their first face-to-face scene in this episode that I got real chills, because I was like, wow, these are two veterans of two big YA film franchises back in the early noughties, or the early aughts. What do you call the early 2000s? That's when I first started reading YA, and I watched all of those movies. So actually to see them face to face and refer to each other as mother and son in this new YA franchise that I'm so hopeful for, and it's sort of like a new age of adaptations, and I think so far they're doing a really good job of it. I don't know, that just gave me chills. It felt very passing of the torchy, that wow, it's brilliant that they got these two actors to come on for Shadow and Bone. Yeah, that was just a really powerful moment for me. I don't think I even heard their dialogue. I was just like, wow, this is powerful. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. I am surprised at how well paced it is. When we first heard that there were only gonna be 8 episodes, I was like, that's too short. That's not enough to deliver the story. But the way they paced it, it's really like, I'm feeling like an entire story is going on right now, and it already feels like enough for me to tell the whole story of the first book. And I'm just so blown away by how many things they were able to keep from the books, at the same time how many differences they were able to incorporate. I'm gonna take a break, a shower, a much needed shower. What's up? I just finished episode 6. Oh my goodness. 2 more episodes left. So this one was called The Heart is an Arrow, and I think out of all it might be, I don't want to say my least favorite because there were so many awesome things that happened to, but it did feel like a jumping off point into the last 2 episodes of the season, and it was kind of like the fallout from the previous episode, so it had to be a little slower. There are 2 things in this episode that I don't know how I feel about it just yet. There is that growing threat of West Ravka wanting to secede, and my fear is it will give justification to the Darkling for what he does to Novokribursk at the end of the first book. So I'm just afraid that it might come off as like, well, they want to break away, so they deserve what they got. And, you know, I really don't want that to happen, because what the Darkling did was awful and terrible. The second is the idea that Zoya and the Darkling have a physical relationship for funsies. Obviously, we don't know how far the TV show will go, if it will go into King of Scars territory. Zoya's character arc comes from the fact that she does feel abandoned by the Darkling, and there's unrequited longing for the Darkling, and that's why it hurts so much more, because she gave it her all and she still wasn't good enough. So to have it be like, she's still not good enough, but he also just uses her for sex sometimes, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. I don't know. Another thing is that Zoya is very careful with her sexual agency, and so I feel like if she did have real feelings in the game, she never would have allowed that arrangement to happen, because she knew she was gonna catch feelings. So I wouldn't go so far as to say it was out of character, but I'm just kind of bummed that that's the path they took with Zoya. What am I talking about? Why no, I love this episode. I just read the rest of my notes. What am I talking about? It's my least favorite. Oh, it is my least favorite because I cried for the first time. This was the episode that broke me. And I'll give you 3 guesses as to which part made me cry. Yes, all the Helnik scenes. Oh boy, oh goodness. So, in this episode, we get a large dose of Matthias and Nina. My notes are just all over the place. It says, damn it, Helnik. They know we got the short end of the stick as Helnik shippers, so they're really giving us everything, huh? Everything was adapted so closely to the book, from the shipwreck to the lines in the shipwreck to them in the whaler's hut. The whaler's hut? I feel like they, again, have excellent chemistry. I can't believe they kept in the whaler's hut and them trudging through the ice and snow. The whole Nina falling into it was so faithful. And a part of me feels like it's because they know we're in it for a good time, not a long time with Helnik, so they're gonna give us everything that they've got. After the ice broke, and then he finally says Matthias. Well, first of all, I screamed the first time Matthias Helvar's name was mentioned in the episode, and then the ice court was mentioned. I was like, ah, ah! But when Matthias actually introduces himself to Nina and vice versa, and the music started playing. Yeah, that's when I lost it. Look at me, my voice is getting shaky. I love the Melina bromance. I think that was one thing that I didn't see as much in the books, and I feel like the actors have a really good bromance chemistry. You believe the fact that they're all each other has in the world. Was that grammatically correct? They're all the other person has in the world. And I feel like it really came through in this episode. Also, I know that there was a lot of controversy about how plus size the actress was gonna be, but I mean, to me, honestly, just seeing Nina take up a lot of space physically, emotionally, and being unapologetic for me. Again, that was something I didn't realize would mean a lot to me, to see someone who looks like me, both in terms of Alina and body shape, in terms of Nina, like on screen. I know a lot of people talk about the importance of being seen in the media they consume, and I was never kind of that person, but now I'm like, yeah, it totally means a lot. Yeah, I totally agree. Can't read my notes. Okay, well, we can end with the best, I would say, for a lot of people, scene in this episode, which is Kaz and the Darkling facing off. What? It was a short scene, which I think was perfect, because I think any more would have been quite fan servicey. As it is, it was pretty fan servicey, but I mean, I didn't connect it until I saw Kaz at one end, and then the Darkling shows up, and then I let out a Kaz and the Darkling, Kaz and the Darkling. Oh my gosh, it's happening. Everybody calm down. I'm excited to see the last 2 episodes. This was kind of a quieter, chill episode, but I'm really excited to see where we'll go with the last 2 episodes. If each episode was a meal, I come away from each feeling really full. I don't feel cheated. I don't feel like it was too short. At the same time, I don't feel like it was too long. So I should be finishing before dinner, but I don't know how much of an emotional wreck will I be after episode 7. So we'll see, and I will see you guys after episode 7. Howdy friends, so we're here after episode 7. We are at the end of this particular journey. I am exhausted. A lot of brain power has been used up. That's not true, I was watching Netflix. It's a lot to take in, so I think I'm gonna like take a break, see the sun, what little sun remains, and then get back to the finale. But notes for this one, it starts off with the Darkling's origin story, which is something I did not have on my Shadow and Bone bingo card for this show. So when it happened, I was just like, what? I love his hair just because it's so Prince Caspian, and it's kind of what, you know, Prince Caspian might have looked like in his older years. Not kind of, it would exactly be what Prince Caspian would look like, or King Caspian. It just says, I am agog. Which I was. I don't know how I feel about the Darkling's origin story being a little more sympathetic, and that, you know, the king killed his wife and they were being persecuted. He felt like he was at the end of his what's the end of that saying? He was at the end of his rope, and that's why he created the fold, when in the books it was really more of he was a greedy son of a gun who wanted more power. So I'm not too sure how I feel about this Darkling redemption story. Well, that's a gory necklace. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Visually, it's stunning how they put the collar on Alina. I personally was looking forward to a nice necklace, not embedded in her bone. but I guess it makes sense with the title of the show being Shadow and Literal Bone. But my, that's not a pretty sight. I love how they included the crows quote, that crows just don't forget who hurt them. They also remember who's kind to them. Again, I just get goosebumps every time they lift quotes from the books. And I think that the fact that the quotes sort of blend in seamlessly with the rest of the TV show really is a testament to how well the author and the creators of the TV show work together. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty with Jenya's loyalty to the Darkling, and I still feel like they should have established early on that, you know, she was seen as other by the other Grisha, and that she never really fit in, because it would make sense that she clung to the Darkling and betrayed Alina. Because right now it really does come off as, if not for Jenya's speech about how the king abused her, it would have really come off as she's kind of mean for pretending to be friends with Alina. It sounds really wrong to say I'm glad she had that speech about the king, because it was a very uncomfortable monologue, but I do think it would have served the story better if they had touched upon, you know, why she found comfort with the Darkling. I'm loving that we're seeing the origin for Jesper's love of fancy suits. A couple of episodes and I was like, hey, isn't Jesper supposed to be wearing like really fancy, bright, loud suits? And I'm glad that they answered the question in this episode, where it's like, no, this is where he discovers a love for that kind of fashion. I don't know if it's like Grisha sense, Grisha Spidey sense. The minute, I don't know, it just kind of connected, and the second before the Darkling said the line, I knew he was gonna say it, and then of course I had to say it alongside him. And so when he said, fine, make me your villain, I just let out a scream that would rival the Volcrus. And I loved it. Wow. And then, like, not 5 minutes later, Kaz and Inej are like, no mourners, no funerals. And then I didn't even scream because I was so like that. I was just still recovering from make me your villain. I was like, you can't do this to me. I am having a blast. In case you couldn't tell, my mom said yesterday she was like high-key worried about me. She's like, are you gonna have an attack? It was like 9:30 p.m. and I was still bouncing off the walls in excitement. She's like, do you need to, maybe we need to cool it for a bit. And she was right. One last episode. Let's do this, guys. Okay, time check, 8:40 p.m. the day after Shadow and Bone came out. I just finished all 8 episodes. Wow. Oh my gosh. Oh, so many thoughts. Okay, first I just want to jump into like the last episode and my last set of notes. Wow. Okay, so I continue to cry at all Hellnick scenes. There was really just this one part where Nina smiles, and I could really see Nina, the book character, and the actress's smile, and that was just everything. There was another scene that I forgot to mention in that episode. I think it was episode 5 or 6. It was the Whaler's Hut episode, and I don't know, she was bantering with Matthias, and then Matthias just laughs and says, not in this lifetime, and then those lines, obviously knowing everything you know. It just made me cry. I'm so happy they had waffles, even for just a bit. The rest of the events in the Nina Matthias storyline, they did it identically, but you couldn't help but be frustrated, right? But it also makes me wonder, like, are they just gonna have Matthias in prison all the way until they need him for the ice court job? He would probably be broken out earlier, but I don't think that this means we'd be going into the ice court job by next season. God willing, we get a next season. It just says Mal's a crow. I really like that short little team up of Mal kind of in with the gang and kind of plotting, and he's dumb as a bag of rocks as always, making the wrong choices, but we still love Mal. One of the bookwormy moments I got was Zoya mentioning that she had family in Novosibirsk, because that was information as recent as 2 years ago. We never found that out in the original trilogy, and we only found that out in the 3rd series, King of Scars. So to have that incorporated into this show, just like, I don't know, gave me goosebumps. Also, it just says Zoya and Inej power tops, lol. I did like their team up as well. That's what I loved about the finale episode, where all the worlds crossing, to just have all the characters interact. That was really cool. The choreography, fight choreo, pretty dang good, especially for the knife work. It was the perfect ending, still being faithful to the ending while improving upon it, which I think is what a lot of the reviews are saying now. It's like very faithful to the fans and at the same time improves on what the book lacked. I love the reference reference of when Mal and the Darkling first face off. The Darkling says, I don't have to kill you, time will do it for me. And then now with Mal and Darkling fight 2.0, Mal says, I don't have to kill you, your past will do it for me, just as the Volcra pull the Darkling away. Oh, I thought that was really good. Mwah! Excellent writing. The deal is the deal was done here, and that was really cool. The final shot of Ben Barnes of the Darkling coming out of the fold and him just saying follow, and then the Nichevoya come out. And honestly, when they used to describe the Nichevoya in the books, I was like, they can't be that scary, right? Like, we're shadow soldiers, woohoo, scary. And then they come out in the very last shot and I'm like, holy moly, that made me poop my pants. Why do I keep using that metaphor in these videos? But for me, the most meaningful moment was Alina literally being the one to gift her first knife that she names after a saint. And I like how it wasn't on the nose, and that just says in the episode, oh, I know exactly what to name it. And it's just such a cute reference to those who have read the book, and I just love it. I really enjoyed it. With the amount of book material they had to get in this show, I don't know what they would have done differently. I love the final shot when they were all in the ship and Alina and the crows just kind of share this knowing glance. It's very Paul Rudd gif of like, look at us, who'd have thought? Not me. It was really meaningful to be like, oh my gosh, all these characters are here together. That's insane. Regarding the final battle, I think, well, I've never been a fan of final battles in books, but I definitely love how it improved on the final battle in the first book, because in the first book it's largely internal. We get a lot of Alina's internal monologue, so I loved how there were physical aspects. The Darkling also had the bone, the crows coming in to wreak havoc. Regarding the discrimination against Alina being half Shu, do I think it was a smidge heavy-handed? Yeah. I definitely think a lot of it was just like, well, hit us over the head with it, why don't ya? But the other end of the spectrum is, had they never addressed it at all, and if they were just like, yeah, Alina's Ravkan like everybody, had that happened, there would have been a whole nother kind of criticism coming in of like, okay, you'll cast an Asian actress but not define her race in the show, so it's kind of like you're just brushing over it. I feel like then the show would have received that kind of criticism. So honestly, at my point, did they stick the landing? Not completely. Did it completely mess up the show because they didn't stick the landing? I don't think so. I think there were bigger issues at hand. I honestly prefer that they tried to overcorrect and missed rather than not say anything about it at all and sweep it under the rug. So now let's talk about like the series as a whole. I'm blown away. This might be the best book-to-screen adaptation I've seen of a series I so desperately and devotedly love. It was so good. There isn't anything I would change, and then I'm gonna go and say the one thing I would change. Just the one thing, and that's just like out of a concern. I want to be totally transparent, and I don't want to be like, I didn't see a problem with that at all. The way that the characters marked their crossings in the fold might be triggering to some people, especially those who have dealt with self-harm. I honestly don't know why it couldn't have been a tattoo instead of what they did in the show, but honestly that's the only thing I would change, and that's out of concern for, because I know that a lot of young readers are a fan of the show, so that's the one thing I'm like, it wasn't even that relevant, so why include it? Other than that, in terms of like plotting, casting, I have been going on and on about casting and how beautiful it is. You know, we've come to, I guess, expect a sort of cringe script when it comes to YA adaptations, right? I mean, if you were around in the mid-2010s, that was like what we had to deal with. But the writing was well done. I loved how rewarding it is for the fans, and you know that the creators also had so much emotional investment into the world, and that they really took care to have these little bits and pieces and lines. Some were a wink to certain parts in the books, and it was just so kind to the fans. Leigh Bardugo was talking about this in her Rule of Wolves book launch, which I haven't read, by the way, but she did say that throughout the years we've come to sort of understand that some studios, some movie studios, see a YA movie and only see the dollar signs behind it, and they don't respect the readers. You kind of know they're not taking the book seriously. They know it's not going to translate well on a screen, and they don't try to change it. And this one just had so much respect for the fans, and you could so see it. All these things that would make a bookworm really happy. They were able to stay so faithful and yet carve their own path. And honestly, when Leigh Bardugo and the producers were talking about it in the promo videos, I was like, yeah, right, like you're not really gonna pull it off being faithful and trying on new stories. I don't think it's not gonna work. And it did so well that it was just so brilliant and I had so much fun. No regrets about trying to live vlog the whole thing or watch it in just over 24 hours. I am ready to come back to Twitter and Instagram now. I'm kind of excited. I know I keep telling my mom to watch it. I'm excited to see what it's like for non-readers. I know a couple of friends who are watching it who haven't read the books, but it made a bookworm proud. Like, goodness, I am so proud to be a bookworm right now. I'm so glad, so proud to be a reader. It was magical. Guys, if we get a season 2, that means Sturmhund, that means Nikolai, that means Wylan, which I love Wylan, but I mean compared to Nikolai, he's we'll get the spinning wheel, we'll get Tolya and Tamar. I'm just smiling. I'm so happy. But that about does it for my Shadow and Bone TV show reaction. I don't know what I'm calling this yet. You can follow me on my other bookish adventures on Twitter and Instagram. I'm both at Cuckoo for Books. Please subscribe and I will see you guys very soon. Bye guys!